Piglet, it's ta. Try it again. No. Ta. Ta. Ugh. Hello and welcome to another episode of Music Basics with Ballard. I am your host, Douglas Ballard, and I'm looking forward to going over our lesson today in rhythm. Today's lesson in rhythm is first in a three-part series in discussing how to read rhythms. We are going to start today by trying to convert what you might have learned in elementary school into what professionals use. We're going to try to go from tas and titis, or the speech you learned from the Zoltan Kodaly method of learning rhythms, to what professionals use and counting. Today we're going to be focusing primarily on common time, or 4/4 meter. For more on that, there is an episode on meter before this one you should check out if you're not really quite sure what I'm talking about. We're going to again be using that common time to try to learn and read some rhythms. So let's get started. Oh wait, I almost forgot. This is distance learning for my students, so every once in a while I'll be hiding a code word into our video today for them to be able to turn in for an attendance quiz later. Alright, sorry for interrupting. Let's really get started now. One of the first things you're going to need to be successful today is a metronome. I highly recommend the Boss DB90 metronomes. They are a fantastic tool for keeping time, and you cannot beat them in their quality and the amount of features that they have. However, you don't need one like this that's this fancy. You could easily find a less expensive one at most music retailers, or even free metronome apps for your cell phone. So whatever you're using, I really highly recommend that you get a metronome. One thing I would recommend, however, is that metronome have the ability to subdivide. That's actually, again, something we learned in the meter lesson, so I'd really like it if you would take a look at that one first if you really are lost when I'm starting to talk about some of these things today. That basics lesson is a little bit earlier in the series. Go ahead and check that one out if you need to. The first note we're going to talk about today is the whole note. Now, for those of you who don't know what a whole note is, it is this note right here on the screen. It takes up the whole measure in 4/4 time, so therefore it takes up 4 beats of the measure. When you were in elementary school, you would perform a whole note like this. Ta. You notice that my hands were clapped together and held for all 4 of the beats. This is because you would perform a whole note all the way through all 4 beats. There's no separation of sound, and you have a really strong idea of performing all 4 beats. So a whole note, again, takes up all 4 measures, and performing in elementary school, that's how you would do it. However, we're going to start learning how to count these whole notes, and what you would do is you always count the beat of the start of the note. So if the note starts on 1, you would say 1 and then hold out while holding through all the rest of the beats. It would sound like this. 1. You notice after I was done holding it, I was actually showing you the rest of the counts that beat went all the way through. So I said 1 all the way through all the beats. That's to show that I'm holding all the way through beat 4. The next note we're going to discuss is the half note. And the half note, as the name implies, takes up half of the measure. It also moves at twice the speed of performance as the whole note. So the half note, again, only takes up half of the measure and takes up 2 beats, which is half the amount of beats the whole note takes up. When performing a half note, you would hear this. Ta, ta. You notice that as that is going through, it takes up 1 beat on the strike with the clap, and then you hold for a beat. And then for the next half note, you would say the ta again and hold for the second beat. So a half note takes up 2 beats per performance. So when we're going to learn how to count that, if we're doing an entire measure of 2 half notes, because each one takes up half the beat, 1/2 plus 1/2 equals a whole measure, we will end up filling the entire measure. So let's try that counting. It would sound like this. 1, 3. You notice how that sounded? Very, very obvious. You count on 1 because that's the first beat. You don't say anything on 2 and you show it with your hand on beat 2. And then you get to number 3, you say it again because that's the start of the new note. And then you don't say anything else while showing the 4. You notice that I was able to hold and show you where those notes hit inside the measure. Remember, we are using common time that has 4 beats in the measure. You notice I didn't say 1, 2. I didn't do that. I counted the beat number that the restart of the second note came in. That's a little confusing, so let's try it one more time. Here we go. 1, 3. You notice how that sounded there? Where I counted 1, I showed you 2, I said 3 out loud because that's the start of the new half note, and then I showed you the 4 because it was holding through there. So that is how half notes are counted in a measure. The next note we're going to start worrying ourselves about is the quarter note, and as the name implies, it is twice as fast as the half note. 1 quarter, you need 4 of those to fill a measure. A half note, you need 2, and a whole note, you need 1. It's just like fractions in math. Again, that is a whole note takes up an entire measure, a half note takes up half of a measure, and a quarter note takes up a quarter of a measure in 4/4 time. When you were in elementary school, you might remember counting quarter notes like this. Ta, 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 ta. Do you remember that? I'm sure you do. You say a ta, a start of the word for the quarter note, every time the beat hits. So let's listen to that one more time using our elementary speak. Ta, 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 ta. Pretty simple, right? And as you're kind of going through the measure, you notice that I'm not holding anything. We use a number for each and every beat. Take a listen. 1, 2, 3, 4. You'll notice that I said the rhythm in the same exact way as ta, 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 but kept progressing in numbers through the measure. Because there are 4 beats, I have to make it all the way to 4 before I say 1 again. So listen to it one more time. 1, 2, 3, 4. Very simple quarter notes. And you notice they're definitely going twice as fast as our half notes and 4 times as fast as our whole notes. Now we're going to start talking about something that's a little bit more challenging, and that is pairs of eighth notes. Notice I didn't say a single eighth note, I said pairs of eighth notes. Now, eighth notes by themselves are twice as fast as quarter notes, and you still need, you probably guessed it, 8 of them to fill a measure. However, today we're only going to concern ourselves with pairs of them grouped together. And as you can see from the example, pairs of eighth notes look like this. One of the reasons I'm being so specific about saying pairs of eighth notes is because a lot of my students identify those 2 notes as a single entity called a TT. And you're now probably going, oh yeah, I've heard that before. Yeah, there's a reason why I'm being very specific and calling them a pair of eighth notes, because it is a grouping of 2 different notes. We're going to get into the challenge of separating those pairs later on in part 2 of this rhythm reading video, but for now we're going to worry about them in pairs. So let's get going on that. Let's get going right now on the rhythm you see on your screen. You notice that there are 2 quarter notes, then a pair of eighth notes, and then a final quarter note. And that is an entire 4-beat measure worth of notes. We're going to count that using the elementary speak first. So let's go. Ta, ta, ti, ti, ta. You notice that I did clap for both of those eighth notes. That's because each one of those pairs of notes has 2 performance markings in there. There is a first eighth note and a second eighth note in that pair, so you must perform them, and that's why I'm clapping them while I speak my rhythm. Listen to it and watch it one more time. Ta, ta, ti, ti, ta. You notice that that second eighth note is not landing on any of the pulses from the metronome. And you can set your metronome to subdivide as we are doing, but right now I'm just going to have it clicking the main beats so we don't get confused, okay? So right now you might be asking yourself, wait a second, I see 5 notes on the page, and you've already said that we only can count to 4 in the measure because there's only 4 beats. You're right. Musicians figured out a way to subdivide our beats using special words. And in this case, we're just going to use the word and. That's it. The word and. So if we're going to count this measure, it's going to sound like this. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Pretty simple. Let's try it again. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Pretty simple. 1, 2, 3, and 4. You notice that you still get all of the sounds. You have a separate sound for every single note on the page, and you're not throwing in extra counts. You notice I didn't say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's the important part in the counting, is that when the note goes faster than the beat, remember, in meter, the bottom note tells us that the quarter note is getting the beat. So only the quarter notes are going to be getting the beat. So the quarter notes right now are going to be getting the beat, and the first eighth note, which is the first half of that quarter note. That's where it starts getting confusing. Remember, eighth notes are twice as fast as quarter notes. So when you double their speed, they're only taking up half of the entire beat. So you need to make sure that you have that subdivision word in there, the and, so you have a performance word for that other note. Let's try that first rhythm one more time. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Worked out pretty well for you, right? I hope you're understanding it. If you need to do it again, you remember you can always rewind back a YouTube video and try to watch it again to get that in your head. Go ahead and do it if you feel you need to. Now we're going to try a series of these by moving those pairs of eighth notes around the measure and maybe having more than one in the measure. But first, we're going to try with just one, but we're going to move it a little bit sooner in the measure. Now, what we'll do is we'll perform the measure once in elementary speak, we will wait 4 beats, and then we will try it counting. So here's an example of that beat moving a little bit earlier in the measure, and we're going to try it again. Remember, elementary speak first with your tas and TTs, and then we're going to move into counting after a 4-beat waiting period. Let's try it. Ta, ti, ti, ta, ta. 1, 2, and 3, 4. Did you get it? Did you get the count in there? I think you did. Let's try it one more time. Ta, ti, ti, ta, ta. 1, 2, and 3, 4. I bet you got it that time. You're starting to understand this counting thing, right? Especially when we have those pairings of eighth notes. Remember, the first one's going to have a number, the second one's going to have an and. We're going to do something a little bit more challenging with that in part 2. For right now, remember that. The first one of a pair of eighth notes will have a number, the second one will have an and. All right, here we go. We're going to try a third example. Ti, ti, ta, ti, ti, ta. 1 and 2, 3 and 4. Ti, ti, ta, ti, ti, ta. 1 and 2, 3 and 4. How'd you do on that one? All right? If you need it again, remember, you can always go back and try it again. We're moving on to our next example. Here we go. Ta, 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 ti, ti. 1, 2, 3, 4, and. Ta, 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 ti, ti. 1, 2, 3, 4, and. How'd you do on that one? Okay? I think you're getting the hang of it. I bet you are. Here's moving on to another one. Ta, ti, ti, ta, ti, ti. 1, 2, and 3, 4, and. Ta, ti, ti, ta, ti, ti. 1, 2, and 3, 4, and. I bet you did a pretty good job with that one too. All right, one last one. This one's a doozy. Here we go. Ti, 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 ti. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Ti, 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 ti. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. You notice That last one got a little bit of a challenge as you're going through there because all the notes are twice as fast as your standard quarter note. But I bet you anything, with a little bit more practice, you'll get it. Great job on learning eighth notes. Let's move on. One of the most important things about music that you need to know is that it's not just made up of notes. It's actually made up of notes and space. And that space is very, very important in creating music. If you don't have the space and you just have notes, you don't have music. So those spaces are called rests. And rests are when you perform nothing. You don't make a sound. Oftentimes you breathe. And if you need a little bit of help with that breathing part, check out episode 1. That's a really good episode for that. But in rests, and today we're only going to talk about one specific rest, and that is the quarter rest. And you may be able to guess, it also only takes up one beat in the measure, just like the quarter note. And a quarter rest and a quarter note take up the exact same amount of space. It's pretty simple, but it's a space of nothing where you make no sound and perform nothing in the music, and that's what a rest is for. I'm sure you remember in elementary school, whenever you performed a rest, instead of clapping because you make sound when you clap, you're going to throw away the sound. So we're going to try that now with a couple of examples with rests in them. So here we go. Let's try this one. Ta, ta, ta. 1, 2, 4. Did you notice that I did not count during the rest? That's very important. And you notice that the final quarter note was not called number 3 because I didn't say anything during the quarter rest. It is still number 4 because the rest still takes up a beat and it still gets a count, but you don't say anything because you're not performing anything. Let's try that one more time. 1, 2, 4. 1, 2, 4. All right? I think you're getting it. Let's try another one. Ta, ta. 1, 3. You getting it? Let's try it one more time. Ta, ta. 1, 3. I think you're getting it. Okay, here's the last one before we really try to get into reading some of these rhythms. It has quarter rests in it. Let's give it a shot. Ta, ta, ta. 2, 3, 4. A little bit of a challenge because we don't start with a 1 on that one, isn't it? So be careful. Let's try it one more time. Ta, ta, ta. 2, 3, 4. Are you starting to notice why professionals count instead of saying tas and TTs? Because it makes it a little bit more obvious where you are in the measure when you're counting. That's why counting is so important, all right? So we're going to start moving on to some harder stuff. You ready? I think you are. Oh, real quick. The first word today is country, as in I want to go to the country. So that's our first word. Country. You got it? Good. If you remember from our time signature lesson, and if you haven't seen it, go watch it. It's pretty good. We talk about how the top number tells us how many beats are in a measure. And in today's examples, 4 beats per measure. And in the bottom note tells us what type of note is getting the beat. In this instance, the quarter note. So once you hit number 4, what do? Well, you start a new measure. And a measure is every time you hit that group of notes that you have a number for, you have to start over and get to 1 again. So we're going to start adding measures in order to up the challenge level for you today. Now, we're going to start with 2 measures as our first attempt. You ready to go? Let's take a shot at it. So here's how we're going to do it. We're going to start by putting both the measures up there. I'm going to start the metronome. It's going to give you 4 clicks, and then I'm going to point when you need to start. And you're going to try it on your own without any help. I think you can do it, but you're going to try. Then I will give you the answer on the screen with the numbers, and we will say it together to check your learning. You ready? We're going to try it again once on your own without me, and once with me helping you and the answers right there on the screen for you. We're only going to be counting from now on. No more tas and titis. You don't need those. You can do the counting part. You've got this. Now remember, I'm going to give you 4 clicks on the metronome before it's your turn to start, but I'll also give you a little cue when it's your turn to start too. Try it on your own without me, and then we'll try it together. How'd you do? Pretty good? Let's try it together. Ready, go. 1, 2, 3, and 4. 1, 2, and 3, and 4. Did you get it the first try? I don't know. Let's try it again. You try it on your own, and then I'll join you. All right, here we go. Ready, go. 1, 2, 3, and 4. 1, 2, and 3, and 4. Are you a rhythm reading master? I bet you are. Let's try another one. Here we go. That one was a little bit harder. You ready? Ready, go. 1 and 3, 4. 1 and 2 and 3. Yeah, that was a little harder because of the rest. Let's try that one together again. 1 and 3, 4. 1 and 2 and 3. Try that one on your own. You ready? Here you go. Ready, go. I bet you got it that time. All right, let's try one more. A little bit more of a challenge. Go. How'd you do? You want to try it with me? Let's try it. Ready, go. 2 and 3 and 4 and 2, 3 and. Yeah? No? I bet you have it. One more time. Try it on your own first, and then I'll say it with you. Ready, go. Here we go. Ready, go. 2 and 3 and 4 and 2, 3 and. I bet you did it that time. I'm really proud of you and your progress. Great work. All right, you've graduated. Now it's time for 4 measure rhythms. You ready? I think you can do it. Let's get started. One quick thing is, now that we're in the 4 measure rhythms, we're going to actually have the half notes and the whole notes appear again. So be prepared to count through your numbers as you're going through everything, okay? So that way you hold the note for the right amount of time. Let's get started. Here comes our first 4 measure rhythm. All right? I think you can get it. Ready, go. How'd you do? Did you see me give you a little help with the half notes? I kind of showed you where they were in there. Let's try it together. We're going to count only. Here we go. Ready, go. 1, 2, 3, and 4. 1, 3. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. 1, 2 and 3, 4 and. How did you do the first time? On your own. I bet you did better than you think you did. Let's try it one more time. We'll do it together. Ready, go. 1, 2, 3, and 4. 1, 3. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. 1, 2 and 3, 4 and. Hey, you got it. I know you did it. I know that you've got this. So proud of you. All right, let's try another one. Here comes our second 4 measure rhythm. Try it on your own first. Ready, go. Yeah? Yeah? Come on. Feel proud. You know you did it. Let's try it together. Ready, go. 2 and 3 and. 1 and 2 and 3 and. 1, 1 and. 3 and 4 and. Yeah? I bet you did it. Let's try it. We'll do it one more time together. Here we go. Ready, go. 2 and 3 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 1 and 3 and 4 and. You did it. You are awesome. And with you being awesome, this brings us to our second awesome word, and that is bear. As in, there was a bear roaming around Delaware County just a few months ago, and people were losing their minds about it. So, bear.
Holy, no way! No way! Bear watch!
All right, now we're going to move on to something that gives a lot of starting musicians a big trouble, and that is learning to move from one line of music to the next. Because frankly, not everything is written all in one line and it just keeps continuously going. Could you imagine sheet music if they did that? Oh my Lord, I would hate it. Anyway, so what we have to go for that is we have to learn to read music from left to right and then jump to the next line and go left to right again. We're going to do that by doing 8 measure rhythms. Now, this is the challenge round for today's lesson, and if you get this, you're going to be totally perfect for the next 2 parts of this. So, you ready? 8 measure rhythms. Let's do it. All right, we're going to try this. I'm going to put up that 8 measure rhythm now, and I want you to study it for a second. Now, we're going to do this differently. We're going to try this twice. The first time, I'm actually going to read it with you, just because I want you being able to follow from the end of the first line and jumping to the start of the second line. And then I want you to try it on your own. And then we'll try it again together. And that's how we're going to do it for these 2 8 measure rhythms that we're going to try. But here's our first one. You get a good look at it? All right, let's give it a shot. Ready, go. 1, 2, 3, and 4. 1 and 2 and 3, 4. 1, 3, 4. 1 and 2, 3, 4, and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1, 2 and 3, 1 and 2, 3 and 4, 1 and 2, 3, 4. How'd you do? Were you able to jump to the next line and not get lost? Well, let's try it just on your own and see how you do. I think you got this. I believe in you. You've been part of this lesson for a long time. This is old hat. You got this. Ready, go. Let's try it together. Ready, go. 1, 2, 3, and 4. 1 and 2 and 3, 4. 1, 3, 4. 1 and 2, 3, 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1, 2 and 3, 1 and 2, 3 and 4, 1 and 2, 3, 4. You did it! You did it! Oh, yes, yes, I know you got this. I know you got this. Let's try the challenge round. You ready? Here we go. Take a look at it. It's up on the screen. It's got some rests. It's got a whole note. How many beats does that whole note take up again? Really look at it. You ready? Let's try it on your own first. Let's see how you do. I believe in you. Here we go. Ready, go. Yeah. You fist pumping? You did it? I know you did. Let's check it. Let's see how it sounds. Here's with all the numbers added in and us doing it together. Let's try it. Challenge round accepted. Ready, go. 2, 3, 4. 1, 3, and 4. 1, 3, 1 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 1, 1 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 4. Did you rock it? Did you get it? I know you did. Awesome job. Hey, you've read 8-measure rhythms. You've jumped lines. You've made it through the basics of rhythm reading. Totally awesome. I am so proud of you. This is one of the hardest things in music to do, is learning to count rhythms and no longer using those elementary words. And you've been doing it for most of the video. Wow. Great job. All right, that brings us to our last word, and it's a big one today. It's jamboree. That's right, jamboree, as in like, hey y'all, we're going down to the jamboree. There you go, jamboree. So there you have it, folks. Rhythm reading in a nutshell for the basics. Now remember, this is the first in a 2-part series. There's going to be 2 more, trying to add a little bit more onto the basics of rhythm reading. Trust me, there's way harder things that are even far more advanced than these 3 lessons are going to cover, but once you have the basics, those will seem easy as heck. I believe in you. You've got this. You did it today. You can do it again. I look forward to another Music Basics with Ballard with you, but for now, see ya, bye. This is one of my favorite features. What does it sound like when a little kid tells a story?
And.